Welcome to Season 2 of Strengths on Fire, the Great Strengths Debate.
Think you know Clifton's strengths? Think again.
This season, we're breaking down the biggest myths
Challenging conventional wisdom.
and showing you how strengths actually show up in leadership, life, and the messy middle of real work.
Sarah, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Let's light it up! Good morning, good morning, good morning, Mr. Bill Dipple.
There she is. There's the Sarah I love singing so much. I think that's great. I love it. I've mentioned before, I love it when you sing. I think it's actually really fun and engaging. And then you're always like,
Thank
no.
you.
do
Yeah,
not
you're
want
like
me
the only person in the face of this earth that loves it, but that does not stop me. And that says a lot about my personality.
I don't think that's true. We got browbeaten into being on karaoke together, and somehow we got out of it. It didn't happen.
I did not want to get out of it. I wanted to do
I didn't
it,
either.
but like,
I was super excited,
Tiny.
but they planned it at a weird day that you and I were already on the way out. So I blame me. So
you know what though? This is such a good segue to my question for you today.
thank God.
I didn't even plan this, but
I can't wait.
So the original question was, if your career had a theme song, what would it be? But you know, it's a big week in Swiftie land. We're recording the same week that Taylor Swift went on a podcast for 2 hours on New Heights. She's announced Life of a Showgirl, her new album, and living in that vein. And you're probably panicking knowing that I'm going to ask you, if your career had a Taylor Swift theme song, what would it be and why?
Interesting. I'm going to start with Cruel Summer.
Okay, tell me more.
And I'm just going to hit Cruel Summer because I've had a couple of moments where my summers have been really good coaching. And then I've had some cruel summers where I've had some moments, right? I've had some moments. But if I had to choose the one theme song, like the Swiftie theme song on the coaching side, it's Shake It Off. So.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
It's Shake It Off. I don't, we've highlighted on this podcast before, there are times I've been like, my staff has to remind me, you can't care more than they do. You got to shake it off. And I have moments in my heavy, our guest will joke about this today because we spent a lot of time together a long time ago going over this. I have a lot of relationship themes. So there are moments I need to shake it off when I get that personal, kerfluffly, what just happened moment. So,
yeah.
and it's not her absolute best song, but it is, it's catchy. It's great. It's one that I have on repeat fairly regularly. And so,
I'm really impressed. Honestly, I thought we're going to struggle more with that, but you came out of the gate swinging and I love it.
I'm
Kudos
so
to you.
impressed right now,
Right?
too. 2 song titles that you knew. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't even prep him at all, audience. I just came in with hot. And look this is a man who is actually a Taylor Swift fan. That's how you know.
I am. And your theme song, what would be your Swiftie-based walkout hype music?
Well, I was going to say, we haven't heard it yet, but on The Life of a Showgirl, her new album, there is a song called Eldest Daughter. And while I'm not necessarily the eldest daughter, I am an only child who is a daughter. So I have a lot of eldest daughter energy. And I feel like whatever this song is going to be, I'm going to resonate with it deeply. But if we're talking about songs that are currently out, I think I have to go with The Man. I feel like in my career and as an entrepreneur, I feel a lot of like, if I were an old dude, no offense to anyone here.
Wow. Why would an old man be offensive? I
just
know.
think I think that especially in a lot of business spaces, in a lot of entrepreneurial spaces, there's a lot of credibility that gets given to men. And I sometimes think being a young, fun lady of the land, it can be harder to get in certain rooms. And there's certain things I see people getting invited to who are more seasoned men. And I think, why did I get invited to that? Like, I am better than that person. And I think like, oh, the other men in the room probably thought that I wasn't as good or serious because I'm a woman. And maybe I'm being totally biased and maybe that's not what they think at all. But I'm going to have to say The Man energy.
Maybe. So maybe you're going to like this comment. Maybe you won't. I don't always know. Sarah's filter is broken, as we've discussed. I agree with you. I think
Mm.
men get an unfair ramp into many situations and many available coaching things, or maybe false credibility. Where I know some of the women that should be in those positions would be better at handling what they do. So I I actually agree with you. And have I been a recipient of it myself? Maybe, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me to make that comment, I have to throw myself in that ring. I am an older white male, so have I benefited from this? Probably, absolutely. And do I know women that are better than me in certain coaching aspects, or overall, or in business, or in life in general? Absolutely. So I don't disagree with you on this. I like it. So
But I also think that there are instances where women hire me and maybe they hired me because I am a fun
yeah,
lady of the land and
yeah,
not a man. So, there it could
yeah,
work on both ways where I could miss
yeah.
opportunities because of it and I
Well,
could get opportunities because of it.
Well, and since this is a debate show, I would also say, would you agree that there might be some instances where, yes, he's not as good on stage as you are, but there are other things you don't see and know where that's why he's up there? And so while you
Yeah.
may have been better, right? I mean, we can't just instantly say, he may have a better system to get in. He may have a better, there might be something else other than he's just a man. I just pointing that out, but
Yes.
I think both of these can be true. So
That is true. That is
yeah,
true.
yeah,
And I think that I have seen more often than not men can get by on a lot of karma. And in the past, because I have this eldest daughter energy as an only child, I used to be striving for A's, doing everything like they would say, like in academia, following all the rules. And I would see oftentimes mostly boys who were not following the rules, but were standout students, but they were charming and charismatic and they could show up late and everyone was so enamored by them. They'd be like, "Oh, you're the best student." And that used to make me insane. And I felt like it was so unfair. And then I realized I am charming and charismatic. What if I can show up and be that? I'm still going to show up on time. I'm going to do things I said I was going to do. But also, why not use the charm that these men seem to be able to use to like get this upper hand? So
I'm
I've been trying that
I'm
in the
glad
later years of my life.
I'm glad you jumped into that point, because I was going to point out the years you and I have known each other. I find you pretty charming and charismatic, and
Oh, thank you.
I've seen it work a room. I've seen it and talked to you about it opening doors for you. While I get that it may be a little more automatic for men to have that opportunity, I would say you benefit from the charm quotient before sometimes you get credit for the skill quotient.
Yes, I think sometimes I actually surprise people that I actually also know what I'm talking about.
I know you very well, Sarah, but I love that you picked that song and just hearing you guys debate this out and share your points of view. I am feeling like you embody the energy that this song is really talking about with empowerment and taking control, like the boss lady energy. Maybe she should
Yes,
name this song.
I
Sarah
know.
Sarah is a boss lady. We
I need to get a sparkly blazer.
You do.
Ooh.
I got called a sparkly octopus, I think 2 episodes ago. So the sparkly blazer is,
Hmm.
you would wear it
There
very
we
well,
go.
Sarah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kay, you've got me feeling like the man. That's an
So,
Eras Tour
well,
reference.
Kay, since you have come in starting to make Sarah feel like the man, and we are talking about sparkling personalities, I am overjoyed to invite on this show today Miss Kay Markovic. Kay is a fellow Gallup coach, and I have a very special place in my heart for Kay because we actually went through Gallup training together in Omaha, Nebraska for
Whoop, whoop.
the same cohort. And Kay and I have kept in touch. We've talked business, we've talked coaching, we've talked schooling. enough about what I think about Kay. Kay, can you tell us, one, your top 10 strengths, but can you also kind of give us an overview about how you got where you are, what you do, what you're doing now, where you use the strengths profile, and how that looks for you?
Sure. Well, like you said, we met at our coaching training, and I had been using Clifton Strengths inside of my classroom for about 8 years before that. I had maxed out on all the free resources I could find online, and my students just wanted more and more. They actually asked me to bring this on after we went to an entrepreneurship conference with adult professionals, and they were in a breakout session, told each other about it. They visited the breakout session, came back and told me that I had to run this. I had not been in that session, but the second we started to, it really transformed my relationships in the classroom, and as you know, brought them into more of an awareness around their potential and their uniqueness. And I saw amazing things happening with team dynamics inside of our business classroom environment, where I set them up in different groups and teams based on what they were interested in. And that led me to Gallup and that certification because I needed to know more to bring back to them. But it's an amazing engagement tool in the classroom that I've felt has kept kids in my room. During COVID, they weren't home. They were coming to class when we were open. So I think what it does for them is make them feel valued and seen and heard by an educator, which is they would describe probably kind of rare at school from a day-to-day perspective. So, but really the outcome was helping students find their passion for business, but also their best fit and using their profile, and getting to know each other's talents. I used activities from our training, things that worked well within our group when we were there at the Gallup corporate headquarters back then. And it's just been amazing. I'm now teaching some adjunct classes at our community college. I'm also bringing Clifton Strengths into that piece. And it works with every audience. And I love it. It's one of those things that brings me back over and over again, to conversations like this with good friends like you. So
Yeah.
my top 10, my number one is ideation. Number two is futuristic. Number three is connectedness. Number four is learner. Number five for me is arranger. Number six is positivity. And 7, 8, 9, 10. I have self-assurance in there. I have to look at my list.
Significance, woo, and
Thank you.
activator. They're
Yeah, you
all
rounded
right
out
there.
with those influencing
A lot of
themes.
influencing, yes.
Now you know how I got so influenced at our ASC class. Kay
That's
and I were
right.
sitting next to each other for a couple of the events, and I was like, "You are pretty darn amazing. Look at you, glom onto it, teach it, know it." Speaking of the teaching side of it, we know that Gallup's 34 themes. We tend to look at those as an adult based assessment, but you're teaching kids. You're at a certain level. How old are the kids that generally you're running this process with?
15, 18 years I've been teaching high school juniors and seniors. And this year I'll be teaching sophomores through seniors.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw so many applications. I took a few years off from the classroom to help launch my own children into college and career selection and things like that. And I spent a little bit of time at an elementary school, 6 months. I was translating for students that were newcomers to the country who needed translation services. I'm helping them out. That was a big change for me, but I could see kindergartners sorting markers instead of getting their baggy books out and reading. And it was like they had to get the arranging done, or they had to go and be woo in their woo element and talking to others, and sort of getting that energy to go move and do the next thing that they had to do. So you could see different things that they were gravitating to at a very young age.
Yeah.
Then I spent the last 3 years at a middle school in the library area where I had a very disconnected job from the classroom and more of a support role. And I was helping students and teachers in that element using some marketing background there as well. And you could see at the middle school level, if they had known these Clifton Strengths pieces, they do use the Strengths Explorer tool inside
Mm-hmm.
of this school district, which I thought was really interesting. I wanted to try to bring some workshops, leadership workshops together to see if kids could tiptoe into career planning before high school and align their courses to their interest areas, if that would maybe help engagement with at-risk
Yeah.
students or even leaders, knowing what to do to give back as leaders within the school building and the school environment. So I could see applications all the way through, where freshman year is very pivotal as far as getting going on competitive college applications and opportunities to be able to shine there. Um, and then getting into those upper high school years where it really matters whether or not you understand yourself and have that awareness to make those decisions for college and career
Yeah,
beyond.
so smart. And I think you knew exactly where I was going with this because I'm actually really excited to hear from you. We've had some of the students I've worked with on this podcast previously, but in your age group that you've worked with, both we know that it sounds like you used Explorer when you dropped down to the middle school, but as juniors and seniors, and now maybe sophomore, junior, I've heard some arguments that they're using the 34 full blown report. And some people prefer to drop down and use that, even though that's a bit early from when Gallup would say maybe that's when it gets distributed, as opposed to Explorer. So, can you tell us, because we're leading towards the debate question today of futuristic versus the here and now, are you futuristically putting them in the 34, building into that, or is there something else at play there?
Yeah. So my own children took Strengths Explorer because I gave it to them after going through our course at Gallup. I learned a little more about what it was. I met some people who knew about that tool. So I had my own kids take it in middle school as eighth graders.
Mm-hmm.
And my son, this is one story that if you knew him, you would kind of see how this has played out in all of his decisions. He's now a sophomore in college, but he really showed a career area that report gave that was an event planner. And when I just kind of let it alone, he didn't want to talk about it. He wasn't interested, but I sort of watched and observed over the years. And he became part of what they call student senate at this school. He was the treasurer. He led homecoming and prom planning. He is now at a school where he's studying automotive management and marketing. He's involved in their big international auto show where he has a, a luxury brand of automobiles that he is given each year. And it is putting on like a trade show tent or event for that particular brand. And so event planning has continued to pop up in his go-to things that he just finds himself doing, and really seems to have a passion for, but I've never quite labeled it for him. Now, if he listens to the podcast, he'll understand. But it was kind of a test for me to see how does this look? How does this play out? And does it resurface
Right.
naturally and organically in the young adult that way? But I prefer the 34 if I have the budget to pay for the vouchers. That's the big sticking point. This year, for example, I can only afford the top 5. I love having them see their
Mm-hmm.
bottom 5 at the high school level. And I would do this with freshmen if I had them in my courses. I would definitely do it with sophomores because sophomore year, you have to decide what colleges you're going to be focused on for junior year. And if you are looking at top 10 elite colleges, there is no way. My daughter was this kind of student. Really, you have to start at that middle school level and know that you are academically excited to do school and you love the process or the challenge of learning. It depends. Some people are
Mm-hmm.
really interested in learning because they're high in learner. My daughter's not. She's number one command and number two competition, and
Ooh.
learner falls really
Ooh.
low on her 34. But what gets her up in the morning is the idea that she can blast that goal and get 100% on that quiz or that test. So she looks like she might be a high achieving, high learner, but she's actually extremely competitive and loves to be in charge and in the lead of projects in her life and her decisions. So for her, it took me a while to figure that out, but it started with, again, with Strengths Explorer. And then my students obviously don't have that at such a young age at their disposal. These students now at my new school be interested to play around with that a little bit and see what they remember from taking that tool, if anybody used it with them, what it shows, and then maybe I'll give them their top 5 vouchers, get them through that test and see where they fall in their top 5. But I do think there's something to be said for letting a young person know the insights that come in that 34 report, having them see the bottom 5, comparing, getting them to work on their self-confidence and self-awareness around what they do best in the classroom, reaching out to teachers and having them also share observations before building resumes and college applications and get that feedback, because a lot of them don't know what they do well. They can't label it. They don't think they do anything well. There's nothing that helps them stand out. And so I feel that teachers see them working all the time. So we're the best poised to be able to give them that feedback, like an employer might give you in a work evaluation.
Yeah, I think it's so incredible. You have that futuristic, which is one of our talking points today at number 2, and the way that you see the students through where they're going to be. I think that's like so inspiring. You know, you're thinking about we need to give the students this tool, this knowledge about themselves, this confidence in who they are, because they're going to need it for college, because they're going to need it for career. Like your futuristic, I can, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but like I feel like I can hear you projecting the okay to do for these students to do what they need to do and to do it well, they need to be prepared today. So it's almost like you balance the futuristic with the present moment. Do you think that's true, or how do you see that?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I really, it's taken me some years, but what is at the core of my own self-awareness journey with this was going to my coaching certification course where Bill was my coach and he coached me. So having that flipped on me, really, it was like mind blowing. A different person when I came home. I was able to see that me living in my futuristic talent area created some situations in my classroom where some students were really stressed by that, because I think that unless you have some anchor points and you're very aware of how this feels to someone in your learning space as a teacher, for example, or if I was a manager with employees, I think it would work exactly the same way, because they are my employees. We run a school store, so we have a school-based enterprise inside of our classroom going at all times. I would jump ahead to projects that I knew would help us scale our business. And I would jump ahead so quickly that there were students with obviously different sets of talent that needed to take their time to roll out a marketing campaign. And I was already on the next 4 or 5 levels ahead. And I can remember students saying to me, "Do you want us to finish this? We don't have time to finish that." And I was like looking at them like, well, yeah, I mean, let's get it done. Like, let's get it done
Yeah.
tomorrow, yesterday. And I would be rushing them through a pace that works for me, but does not work for many others within that
Yeah.
space. So once I started to see what I brought to the table, what the impact it was leaving on others, and just learning more about each of the strengths, I started to, I'm even doing it right now. I'm talking so fast that my mouth is not keeping up with my brain. So this is the problem with that. And so I started to kind of go, okay, I need something to keep me reined in. And I joke about it in the classroom. I call it my squirrel brain. And I say, oh, I'm sorry, guys, let me just backtrack now because I have to catch myself and it's exhausting. I have to like be so aware to bring myself to a space where it works for the group. So I discovered Scrum methodologies and project management. And we had a local corporate project manager come in and teach us how to use Scrum methodologies in our workplace. And I am now the Scrum project manager. And that keeps me going in a work routine every 2 weeks where I can have a backlog of my ideas. And if students pick them up and want to roll them out, it's not me leading the charge any longer. It's them using their interest areas and their strengths to do what they do best. And I am there just helping them solve problems, helping them get through situations where the workflow has to stop because they need help or support or resources. So it's a much better place for me to be where I can feel like I have control because I know where I'm taking them ultimately or what projects I approve. I have a place for my ideas to go in the bucket list of backlog. And then the pace keeps me constrained for their sake too.
Wow. Wow. What a powerful way to look at how that comes. And if we can break that down a little further with you, maybe not just from a teaching point of view and with students, let's think about your outside coaching, maybe your personal life. You know, that Futuristic has activator in that top 10 too. So there's that. Ooh,
you can hear it so clearly.
Yeah, let's go. But if we're looking at the other side of that equation, you have connectedness and learner. Connectedness drawing you into, hey, everything here has a connected reason. There are reasons that this happened, that this happens, that now leads to this. And maybe I need to step back a hair and learn something. I might want to take that partial moment to absorb rather than activate. And that's a common assumption around connectedness and learner. How does it play out for you, both maybe in your personal life or in your teaching? Are those the ones you lean on when you feel that you're way out in front? Or is there another combination that feels like it's effective for you?
I think that combination of futuristic connectedness and learner work together for me all the time. And it's something that today, where I am in life at this point, I need to be very mindful of self-preservation because what it looks like is I am constantly getting patterns that I see. I feel like I see the patterns that are unfolding, whether it's fashion or business instruction, being a business teacher, marketing never stops. And it's by the time I got to, 4 years ago where I left the classroom, I was really burnt out. I was really tired. It wasn't the students. It wasn't the practice or the craft of teaching. It was, I think, my combination of that learner connectedness, futuristic on autopilot. And we did have a big tech boom. We had everything happening in the time of COVID and all of the changes with practice of teaching, the business of marketing and economics and all the things that are involved within that. I left and I thought to myself, I love being a strengths coach. Maybe I can do something with this. And if you watched what happened over the past 4 years in my career, I really kept taking more and more steps backwards to slow things down, to kind of disconnect. There's like a moving train that you really can't stop when you're in the flow of a program within the educational setting. And so to unwind that, to recoup my energy, it's taken me a little while. And so I'd say maybe last year and a half, I have felt more re-energized, more self-aware. I've learned so much about myself and the way that I operate within these 3 talent areas and domains. So as a coach, I didn't find that I was maybe ready for being a business owner, being a coach, juggling all of that. I needed to figure out what type of business owner and entrepreneur I was first. In that process, some opportunities came up, and I've really just felt much more at peace, like kind of settled in my teaching. And I really think that that is where I'm going to stay, giving my students all of these tools to be able to see them grow as managers and leaders is really where my passion is versus being an entrepreneur and business owner. So my coaching practice, I think for me here on out will be more as an instructor, giving staff or people within the educational space the tools to be able to do what I do with students, to grow their strengths base before they move on out of college or out of high school. So I'm looking more for opportunities within staff PD, professional development that the teachers all get at all levels, to be able to give back that way and give back to the organization that I work for that way. So that's kind of how it's affected my coaching. I like the classroom group setting as well. So I've got my workshop kind of laid out and refined and fine-tuned for those groups, large or small. And my one-to-one coaching wasn't as fun for me as the bigger group. And so
Fulfilling. Right.
right. And I think there's something about the group dynamic when you have a bigger group and the energy. There's a group size that feels too small to me, like 9 or less feels really small. And I like the energy that I get from my connectedness when I'm in front of a group as a facilitator versus the one-on-one. So that self-awareness, like I said, it's taken me some years to kind of figure out where my best niche might be.
Absolutely. And you can see you've got that woo, significance, positivity, all of those things I think can cause you to gravitate toward the group setting.
Mhm.
I'm also curious. I feel like from everything you're saying, your futuristic seems very goal oriented. Sometimes when I work with people with high futuristic, I will ask them, are you more goal oriented of like, this is what we're going to do, or is it daydreaming of like, this is what could happen, like dreaming about, all of the possibilities. So I'm just curious, how does that futuristic show up for you? Do you find it one way or the other, a little bit of both?
I definitely forced myself to keep it goal oriented because between the learner, the connectedness, and the futuristic, and I don't know that I explained how it works for me, I will pick up an idea and I'll go, I wonder how that works. So I really like the True Colors tool, for example. I'm a green, I'm a scientist
Mm-hmm.
researcher. Um, I really like that part of my 3 within that top 5 realm. And then I have to really shut off number 5, the activator, to get things moving and going because I have to remind myself to stay on task and stay focused.
Yeah.
So I do try to keep it goal oriented and I like to evaluate and research a lot. I like to take in and
Mm.
digest with my learner. And then connectedness for me really feels like the universe wide open, just
Mm-hmm.
infinite black space with like literally things that kind of connect in categories or spaces or information nuggets. And then I was at a middle school most recently working, and this girl said she wrote something about me in a classroom, and she said, "Mrs. Markovic knows everything." And I was like, "I love this. This is great." That self-assurance and like significance in me. It's like that's what I get up for every day. And I sent it to my family group chat and I was like, see, this young lady knows. Like she knows that I'm wise and you people should really pay attention to that.
That's
So my
perfect.
kids were laughing. Um, but I like to kind of jump into conversations and meet people and share what I know and give them tidbits on things that I've learned about. And so that part is really fun for me with connectedness and being social and maybe that woo that pops in there. But I spend a lot of time wanting to listen to podcasts. I have a collection of emails and folders where just I sign up for email newsletters and I'm like, I've got to read that. But I hardly ever have time to do that because I have to prioritize all that research and knowledge
Right.
gathering. And then I come back to my futuristic and kind of go, where are the goals long term and what do I have to let go of? So I like to kind of rearrange and plan, but I hate being stuck in a to-do list. So that daydreamer piece between my ideation and futuristic always wants to take over my entire life. But I did learn, because I gave myself about 6 months to just do whatever I wanted to with this business idea of being a strengths coach full time. And um, I didn't have the structure that I needed, that I was used to and locked into after 20 years of being an educator. And so that was incredibly hard to retrain myself on patterns and ways of operating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to say 4 years later, being an administrative assistant within a library gave me so many ahas. I would say to the librarian that I worked with, I never realized I did this. My poor student.
Mm.
So I feel like there's been a lot of personal growth, but I kind of had to stop everything, take some time to then get to know myself in a different
Yep.
way. And now, again, I'm back in the classroom, but as a very different person, I think, with all
Yeah.
of those checks and balances for myself.
You brought up systems. It took you a while to step back into the system idea, the routine, the regularity of certain things. But your consistency, deliberative, and discipline are all at I
Right.
mean, the
What am I
very
doing as a teacher in secondary ed? I ask
I,
myself that a lot before.
that's my question, right? And it sounds like
Yeah.
you fuel on the new learning, the child pointing out that, hey, I like this, stepping in and knowing
Oh,
we
yeah.
can do this together in a new and exciting way,
Yeah.
which means you don't want to do the consistent
No,
deliberative teaching method.
no. I
So
love an innovative classroom. I really like new, unique scenarios. If I have the same routines, I get bored quickly. And I'll only do them 3 times. I figured this out 3 times, and then I'm like, nope, we've got to mix it up completely. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
scrap entire unit plan and just start over, because it's more fun to do that and piece together the just the right arrangement of new, modern, useful practices or technology or whatever it might be, which is also exhausting. So I have new rules for myself around um, certain baseline things that will not change, and then areas within my curriculum that I can play around with.
Now, Bill, I have a question. I know your context is low. Where is your futuristic? Do you know?
context is 34 for me.
Right. So where's your futuristic though?
Somewhere, I think right at mid 20s,
Middle?
26, maybe 25. And yeah, it is Futuristic's 26 for me. And I don't resonate either way. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's the assessment very accurately depicted that I live in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, when we went through the accelerated strengths coaching together, Kay, I was all in on us in that room, being together, learning it, knowing it. I wasn't thinking for a moment about what was going to happen in 2 weeks when we left and whether I was going to start a business and whether this happened. And I also wasn't worried about what it meant from my past. My past, because my context is so low, is always a distant memory. The past is very rarely comes up to recreate or do where I go. So I think that's why, Kay, when you reached out and said, let's talk more, we called that ASC a specific name on Facebook. I can't remember. It was Will Do, or what was what did we have
Willpower.
with it?
The
Willpower.
willpower.
That's right. Willpower. And we did that because at the time I was working with a group that called me Will, because we had a lot of Bills on staff, so that my name was Will. And when I came in, the ASC got together and we said, let's call it Willpower, because we spent most of the mornings doing some breathing exercises that I led and some stretching and some fun, and let's move on. But again, that highlighting your question, Sarah, that's about in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't worried about what was going to happen in the future, about that strengths, where it was going to go, what I was going to do with it. I just knew I needed it at that moment to handle some of the things that was in my very quick future. So, hopefully does that touch on where you're going with that?
Yes, so I'm just thinking about this as I'm listening to Kay talk, and I was thinking, Bill, that you're a present moment person, which you've
Hmm.
just articulated. And I just looked it up. My futuristic is 32. I am not the person to think in the future either. Like that sort of thinking is not mine. I have context at 11, which I do feel like I utilize. Not I'm not like a huge history buff. Like I wouldn't say it's one of my main core themes, but I definitely can pick it up off the floor. And I was thinking about my husband, who has more futuristic than me. And when we are talking about our family and our plans, I think it's funny because we're talking about putting in a pool, and he will say, he wants to like vision cast what we're going to do. Oh, we could do this and this and this. And I like hate listening to him do this. I almost am like sitting there and like going, uh huh, uh huh. And I am in my head having a whole different conversation because I'm thinking, well, you don't know that. You're not a contractor. How would you know that? But I have high input. And so I'm always wanting to gather information from other people for like the here and now. And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, let's talk to a contractor and then decide what we want to do because we need more information to make a decision on that. And I just think it's funny because it's hard for me to get myself into a future base. Like in a way, I'm feeling jealous of Kay right now for having some of this insight because I just like can't get myself to go there. In graduate school, they had us line up and we were talking to incoming students and they said everyone go around and say what like your dream career is, your future, like what are you working toward? And I went to school for a master's in higher ed student affairs. And so all of my classmates were like, I want to be a vice president of student affairs one day. I want to be a president of a university. And they got to me and I was like, I just want to like my job. Like I literally have no idea what kind of job that will be. I don't know if I would like that job. I just want to like be in a job I like and I'm good at. And I always think of that story to think about that push and pull of the future casting versus the present moment.
Yeah,
As we
this
think
is so
about like,
insightful for me to hear you describe that. I love it.
Yeah, and Sarah, it's like you're describing my life. How often I'll be listening to my wife or others in my world, my business strategists talk about the future, and I'm thinking about what I got later today.
yeah,
I like you, I can't follow it. I just really struggle to push that far out. And like you said, I'm not always thinking, well, you're not a general contractor. Sometimes I'm thinking, well, you don't know what's going to happen between here and there,
right,
right?
yeah.
You
Everything's going to change. Why are we worried about what that is going to be? I think Kay just passed out on the podcast.
I am
She,
like, you're blowing my mind, or yeah, both of you, because I'm like, oh, but now you're trapped in my classroom, and I'm like, do it, get it done today. And you're like,
Right.
yeah,
what? Why?
yeah.
And there are all these learner things popping in my mind where I'm like, no wonder sometimes my students that are like you, Sarah, will say they need to go do the research themselves. And I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, here's what we're going to do. And they're like, you're crazy. Like, that's not going to work out. I'm like, yes, it is. It's going to work out. And so we do have this friction that comes up sometimes a lot. My kids
Yeah.
have that with me. And
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I
yeah,
mean, we point out we need those people in our life. Sarah, you will,
Yeah.
Corey will set a direction. You're gonna, and you'll realize, oh gosh, we didn't need a GC. Thank you for pointing that out. We needed that. Renee
Yeah.
in my life will say, this is exactly from a futuristic point of view. Here's where we're going, and we need to follow the rudder in that direction because this is where we're going to get to. So, Kay, for your students, you're that rudder that Corey and Renee provide for us, and we thank you for that. And by the way, we're happy to be the other side of that. We're happy to be the one that says, "Hey, hold on, we need to think about this in a different way."
this
Right?
is
They're
why
both
my
very valuable.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is why my strength coaching friends are my most favorite people in the world because I feel very accepted and part of the team in that sense. But that's not always the case. I've been in professional organizations where if I'm in a leadership role, and I hate doing it now, but if I'm the president of an organization or if I'm in charge of a group of people, I will then hear comments like, I don't understand like why this is necessary. Um,
Mm,
I don't think that people would be interested in that kind of workshop, for example. Um, And I remember thinking when I was it was a professional organization where we put on conferences for other teachers. I remember thinking, how are they not ready for this? Like, this is what's happening in the next 2 months. It's rolling out. And this is where we should be going to keep people ahead of the game with AI or new marketing tools that were available out there. Why are we teaching kids how to make a poster when that's not what's happening out
Right.
in the world? But I think that connectedness piece and relationship building strengths that I have in different ways. Because I'm not very high on relationship building in that particular like domain area.
You have 2
But
relationship building in your top 10.
right. So I can tend to get like locked into my work mode and just move on by myself. But those types of dynamics I have found are not my favorite to be in. So I don't really volunteer for that kind of activity or project any longer. I will keep myself going and I'll share it with my students in different ways. But again, I really feel like people knowing what this tool is and how it works and supporting each other in that way is just such a beautiful thing. So it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You end up being my favorite people.
Well, we love being people's favorite people. Don't get us wrong.
Yeah. So, Kay, I want to ask you on this front. We're talking about a lot of students and working with them. I want to talk about your personal life for a second because you just came back from, I think, what all of us would consider a rock star vacation. Can I say that? Is that a fair is that a fair assessment? Where was your vacation? And by the way, where I'm going with this is, did you plan it? Was it a futuristic, let's go, go, go? Did you have to live in the present moment? Were you freaked out by things that happened that weren't planned futuristically? Where did you go and how did it play out?
We just got back from Croatia and we go
Wow.
there. Yeah. Yeah. I would highly encourage everyone to get there. It's a beautiful country. We go there every summer because my husband's from there. And so he was an exchange student when he first came to the States and ended up staying and has been here almost 30 years. His entire family is back there. So if we didn't go back now that our kids are now in college, but if we didn't make it back there, the kids would never really know the Croatian side of the family. So that's where we were I was there for a month. The kids are in college. They're joining us when they can now. They're not really kids anymore. They're adults, but they are hopefully going to be able to manage coming and going and want to do that and stay connected as a family long term, we hope. So yeah, that's where we've been. And it's funny that you ask if I worried about unexpected. Yes. Is that what that is? Yeah, all the time. I didn't know if we'd have trouble getting in and out, with everything going on in the world right now and the conversations. Didn't know what was real, what was it. I just wasn't sure. Everything was fine. It was a nice trip. We had a wonderful time. It was really relaxing. But there are always things that I'm planning for and aware of. And in my personal life, my kids would just be rolling their eyes right now, looking at each other, laughing in the background if they could hear me. Because I'm always the doomsday. Okay, make sure that you're moving to Chicago, and Nikki, that's my daughter. Make sure that you have pepper spray and you have like one of those whistles. And what else do we need? If I turned my camera around right now, you would see that in between travel, we've got this dorm hall like growing over here in the background of my dining room. And I'm thinking about everything this young lady could possibly need for the next maybe 30 years of her life. My husband is just like, really, she's just going 2 hours away. It's not like we're not going to see her again. But she will be the most well-prepared college freshman.
And you can hear your futuristic in that. And what I love, because you have positivity, and I feel like positivity gets a misconception that people are always rose-colored glasses. But listen to the realist. She is like, we need pepper spray because the futuristic is overriding it. Like, you can say it with a happy, bubbly personality, but you're like, you're not going to die.
I know. I was like, no, I mean, there are so many serious conversations that we need to have. Like, you're not going to go dabble with drugs and alcohol. Like, we cannot do that in 2025. Do you know all the risks?
Yes, they're putting
They're just
fentanyl in
like,
everything. Okay, stay on the straight and narrow.
where do I get Narcan? Like, how do I buy that?
Yeah.
Who do I call?
How do I find my insurance? How does my insurance card work in Croatia? Right?
Yes, I told her, and I refused to do it. You need to flip that card that I gave you over. And this is where I get into my mom mode. Like, this is serious business. Flip that card over and call that insurance company and make sure it works in Illinois because we live in Michigan. Has she done that? No, because she is a present moment girly. Like, she is not thinking about the future the way that I am. So she knows I love her dearly, but I am the biggest nag, I'm sure, for this 18-year-old heading off to college.
Well, I will tell you what, you are not alone. I think we hear this push and pull, the tension between futuristic and the present moment. And I want to go to our LinkedIn poll. When it comes to your mindset at work, where do you naturally live? That's what we asked the people on LinkedIn. And here's what they said. 27% said that they are focused on today's task. 20% said they're vision casting the future. 27% said they're balancing both, and this was like in a good way. And 27% said they are pulled in both directions, and that was sort of like in the chaotic way. So a lot of 27% here today. We had Brittany Downey, who is a minimalist CMO here out of Lincoln. She said, hardcore, always living in the future. It's exciting and it's hard because I don't often stop to appreciate what I'm doing now and all I've accomplished up until this point. And I think I see that with some of our futuristic people. Now, of course, it can vary depending on the other themes that they have, but I can see them not celebrating the accomplishments that they have and not really feeling like, okay, we've been working so hard to get here. They're just like, okay, and next. And on. Like, we got here, but what is happening tomorrow? What's happening next month? Kay, do you fall in that trap yourself?
Yes, and I have to work on that. Yes, all of the above. As a teacher, if you look at my application and resume, it is like beyond. And sometimes I do take a moment, like when I applied for this newest position that I'm in, and I was like, my word, no wonder I'm tired. But it's funny because I don't do it for myself, but I see it in my daughter. She's a high futuristic as well. And I keep saying to her, please, please do not do what I've done in my life. Like, you must enjoy the day for the day. And then she and I are both very hard on ourselves, and perfectionistic tendencies come up all the time. And we're very detail oriented, which is nice if you're in a trade like marketing. But if you're doing other things where you have to be present moment getting tasks done, you don't feel like you did great every day when you don't stop and take a moment to really recognize and give
Celebrate.
yourself that.
Yeah. Well, so we've touched on futuristic in the present moment with you. We've kind of hit on how you look at the future, how you're kind of that guiding post for a lot of students, providing that futuristic, and how maybe sometimes students are like Sarah and I, and we need a moment to not get there just saying, okay, I'm just making an assessment. Can we talk about when maybe one of your themes has been a dumpster fire for you? Maybe it's futuristic and you're seeing that at this second. Maybe it's one of the others. When do you think one of your themes really gets in your way?
That's a great question. I would have to say the one that gets in the way the most is my number one, ideation. And the ideas, I've heard this reference for it and it does fit, so I like to use it. The ideas come like popcorn when you're at like minute 2.5, and the whole bag is really popping out at the same time. And I'm so glad that I went through this class with you and that group, Bill, because I didn't know what that was in myself. I didn't recognize it. I couldn't put a label on it. It's just everywhere all the time. And so if I'm at home with my daughter or my son, or I'm at work and at school, or I'm in a professional organization, anywhere that I am, when I hear that someone's struggling, I want to help. and here come the ideas. And I have found that like my husband will say to me, and he loves me dearly, but he will say, nobody cares. Like they didn't ask you, so don't tell them. And it does sound kind of harsh, but like over the years, I've cried about this. I've been heartbroken. I've been hurt. I question friendships sometimes because of the way that it has that impact of being just too much and too, but I think that what I've learned in my ripe old age, I'm feeling all the feels with my kids being
Right.
gone now and being an empty nester next week. Um, I think that what I've learned is this saying of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't bring this to people, is what I tell myself now, until they're ready for it. So finding that patience to let myself have the ideas and an outlet for them that is safe for me as far as trusting people, friendships, professional dynamics, and then and finding a place for it all within my life. So I do feel that's the one that has been much more challenging.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great breakdown
Yeah.
of ideation and how that might play into that and how that might lead you to there. But we don't want to just leave a bad taste in your mouth about when one gets in your way. Give us a firework moment. Give us the one that when you're fully in the flow, that's the one that is really pushing the bright, shiny moments.
Yeah, I think that's my connectedness for sure. And the people connections and the energy that I get from meeting people. And I'm sure that comes from a blending of other talents too in there, but I really feel like connectedness is the one that I'm grateful for just in my day-to-day life, like from my soul
Yeah.
for all time. And I like what it gives me as far as my personal intuition, trust in myself, personal guidance system, um, and just a love of humanity and people for who they are. And now pair it with being a strengths coach. And it is the greatest find, really. And I did come back from that coaching course a whole different person, realizing I wasn't just like, I was the only high school teacher there. But I was like, oh my word, people do this for a living? And they are coaches and they're helping people all over the world in these huge corporations. I had no idea any of that was going on. So it was really a treat to uncover
Yeah.
that.
I'm not certain I knew it was happening that much too. I was there to be an embedded coach for somebody and then
Oh,
it's all gone for me to be not embedded and
oh, I
loving it.
loved watching
Absolutely.
this evolve
Yeah.
in you. I have loved it. It's been,
It's
yeah.
and you have been very helpful and supportive in the times we've communicated and talked. I would say I get probably more when I try to help you to do what you're doing. I learn more from you than I think you've ever learned from me, and in being supportive and helpful and backing. So
Oh,
for that, I have to say thank you. So
yeah. Thank you. I'm in awe, and I saw that you're using ClickUp. So I was happy to see that.
I am. How did you know I was using? I don't even look.
I don't know
So.
where I saw that. Something that you sent me had ClickUp, and I was like,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah, it does. Yeah, I am. ClickUp is the organizational tool we use in internally among the coaches to keep us all straight and moving. So, yeah. So, well, Kay, I it has been unbelievably great to get back together with you. I have missed you so much since us being together in the physical space, but I've been so grateful the times we've been able to communicate and touch base. I just miss the fact that we need to get together again and I need to come visit you or you need to come visit me. I think one of those has to happen.
I agree. I agree. I would love that.
Yeah. And your insights today, the idea that there is a real component between being futuristic and being present, how that plays for the other people in your life and how that plays for you has been really well put together today for you. So how you live in that moment versus how sometimes you spot it and know I've got to bring some other themes into this. So really powerful the way you've put that together for us today. So we want to thank you for that.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been such a treat, such a pleasure. I appreciate it.
No, I
Yes.
Yeah.
couldn't.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. We appreciate
we
having you.
Yeah, we
No,
love having
just
great
Sarah.
guests on, and you've been a great one, Kay. So thank you for that. So, and with that, we're gonna back out today. Give Kay her day back, and I'm gonna go play golf, Sarah.
Of course
so,
you are.
I guess I think I'm gonna go do
hope
that.
you do.
But with that, we're gonna say goodbye to our arsonists, to Kay, to Sarah, and we will talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at sarahcoachcollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at billdipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dipple Coach, or email him at bill@billdipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.